Good afternoon on what is a grey and overcast day. It is Friday, October the 8th. I'm back in the Nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And I've got a small pile of parcels with me. But what I'm going to unbox next is this. Courtesy of Paul Rickards, who has kindly lent me to do an unboxing. This is the Doctor Who role-playing game, the first Doctor Who role-playing game, because there have been 3. This was published by FASA, basically in 1985, and it's Doctor Who role-playing game, Adventures Through Time and Space. So, this published in 1985 from the publisher who was at the time going great guns with the Star Trek role-playing game, producing some really good and interesting supplements for it, and lots of really good adventures for it as well. And was sort of like just beginning to diverge with basically, not diverge, but basically branch out with its own board game, and then what became a role-playing, but mostly board game series, Battletech, originally Battle Droids, but they got the Doctor Who license, and over time they would produce something about 5 or 6 scenarios, and also a couple of source books. So they would do source books for each of the Doctors. Basically the first 5 Doctors, I believe. So they got up as far as Peter Davison at the time, and also they did supplements for, I believe, for the Daleks and the Master. So, what do you get in here? Well, here's one of the adventures. Okay, first off, this is Lords of Destiny, and as the cover suggests, this is a scenario done in the style of the Third Doctor, John Pertwee, essentially when he got off Earth in the later series. But opening, essentially what you've got in here is the first of 3 books. So we have the Player's Manual, and the Game Operations Manual, and a source book for Field Agents. Now, the reason it says Field Agents is because all the player characters in this are, just like the Doctor, rogue Time Lords and their companions. But the Time Lord, at least, is in the service of the CIA. One of the many slightly silly conceits, certainly in Doctor Who, is that the CIA exists on Gallifrey. It's not the Central Intelligence Agency, it's the Celestial Intelligence Agency, or the Celestial Intervention Agency. And you basically, alongside your adventures, your own adventures, you would basically be sent off to do things for the Time Lords, as they demanded, and of course as they also demanded the Doctor at various times. So let's have a look in the Player's Manual. So it's really, beyond this splash of cover on the subtitle, on the actual title of the book, there's no colour in these books, as they are all black and white. So you actually have a mixture of art and the occasional photograph. Not bad artwork by any means. Let me see. So, it automatically basically explains the game more quickly into what the descriptions, the attributes are, essentially strength, endurance, dexterity, charisma, mentality, and intuition. And then and they were all rated from level 1 handicapped up to level 7 mastery. And your special abilities, and of course your Time Lord had more of them than you probably did, and then various skills, and again the skills themselves worked on the same level as the attributes. So level 1 unskilled, level 7 mastery. And then we've got a full list of all the skills. There we go. There's quite a lot of skills in the game. So yeah, there's quite a lot in here. But I mean, what that meant was characters could be really good at things or really bad, and you could design quite a wide range of different characters. And really, you had to, because there's so many companions, and they're all different, and they're all good at some things or not. Also personality traits and so on. So there's more photographs alongside the artwork. And this is all really rather plain. And we've got what we've got here is we've got a background and essentially complete with story of a character, basically a cat burglar who gets caught up in the adventures of a Time Lord there. Let's have a look. And that actually runs several pages and includes an encounter with the Master. Of course, that version of the Master would have been Anthony Ainsley. And there is, as you can see at the end, no surprise, a regeneration scene where you go from one Time Lord to the next and confound the would-be companion. Where are we? So essentially you've got personality traits, guide to combat, confrontation and conflict. The problem, I think one of the problems with the with this version of the Doctor Who role-playing game is this. That really kind of tells you all you need to know about combat in the Doctor Who role-playing game. It's too tactical. It really doesn't feel right. Here's a character sheet, and fans of the Star Trek role-playing game will kind of recognise that kind of layout. It's very simple, very plain. Not much to it, but yeah. So later versions, in particular, Doctor role-playing game Adventures in Space and Time, the version from Cubicle 7, got combat right. In that, essentially, it comes down to combat's the last thing you do in Doctor Who. The Doctor himself almost never enters combat. Okay, so in that game, initiative is handled in the order of talking first, running next, or doing things next, and so on, that sort of thing. And the last person, the person who goes last is the one who wants to fire a gun or hit someone. For the most part, there is like an abilities where you can buy where you go, oh, I can leap forward to the talking bit of initiative. So yeah, that's the kind of flaw with it, and it feels a bit clunky for its time. So game operations manual, we have guide to encounters, scenarios and campaigns, adventure scenarios and so on, talking about those, how to make steps in adventure design scenarios, making designs fit, adapting published adventures, adventuring on new worlds, and basically you've got tables there for creating the new worlds, and creating aliens. Because the great thing about a role-playing game is that you don't have a budget. You're not the BBC. You can create whatever world, whatever settings you want, and as long as it fits the flavour of your game and Star Wars, that's fine. Then we've got a bestiary. We've actually got a Celestial Intervention Agency agent here, alongside of Cybermen, Daleks, Ice Warriors. And here, really, this is where they're making the best use of photographs from the television series. And more. We have Movellans, Sontarans, Rutans, Solarians, all very 70s and 80s monsters for Doctor Who. And then presenting scenarios, creating vibrant descriptions and so on. And then we've got judging, character generation, and basically explaining it into a bit more depth and how to approach it from the game master's point of view, judging the action. So also it's not we have a basically an interaction matrix for determining actions. You know, match up the task entry line with the basically the level of mastery, whether that's skill or or attribute, and against the task of to determine the difficulty. Typically, that's rolled on a 2d6, and what you've got in there is a pair of red and white 2d six-sided dice in here. They're not in here, but I do actually have the copies of those 2 dice from my own set. So actually, what I could have done was I could have got those and put those in there to make it a bit more complete, but I didn't. But that's fine. So things like you know, judging movement across the squared grid. It's so on Doctor Who. Okay, so and then we get on to judging time travel. Lots of judging in here. Judging TARDIS use. Where are we? TARDIS systems operations and so on. How your TARDIS works. And this is what typically a role-playing game that's been adapted from a source should do. It should discuss how to use the equipment that the characters have access to, that the TV characters have access to, because it matters. Because you never know quite. Because the TV series, what the Doctor can do is limited essentially by the canon, the Bible, and also the writer's imagination. In your game, it's unfettered. You know, basically let free. Okay, so you know you do need that kind of advice. Then we have a source book for field agents, and this is everything that the character basically time travel's handbook, intervention, introduction. Here's a guide to the setting, essentially for your players that they can sit and read and find out about. There's more here. So if the players don't know anything about the Megara or the Yeti or the Master, there's a bit of information here for them and more. What I'm surprised what there isn't in here is an adventure. I can see that's disappointing. We've got a timeline of the universe, temporal marauders, for example, full stats for the Master, and this would essentially be his Celestial Intervention Agency record, Davros, the Cybermen, including some great shots from Tomb of the Cybermen, which at the time would have been one of the lost stories. Doctor Who has a rash of stories and episodes which were wiped in the early 70s and are much missed. Also, Ice Warriors, and many of these will have come back in New Who, which 2005, which has been running since 2005. Characters like the Movellans haven't, but that's fine. Okay, and then we have Exit Earth, Nexus of Struggle. Basically, here's why Earth is so important to the Time Lords and Time and Doctor Who. And that explains everything. We've got a TARDIS operations manual in here. Medical abilities, TARDIS damage and repair, guidelines for selecting visitors to Gallifrey, and a visitor's guide to Gallifrey as well. Terminology useful for visitors, equipment, and more. There's a lot of it in here, and of course, last but not least, let's not forget robots, and that means K9 as well. So this is we have interventionary companions, and now this isn't all of the companions because that would take up a lot of space even back in 1985, but the most recent companions. So it does include Perry Brown and Tegan Jovanka, who would have been the most recent companions for would have been Peter Davison, but it goes back to classic villains, classic companions like Susan Campbell, the Doctor's granddaughter, Ian Chesterton, Let's see whether Barbara is here. Barbara Wright, yes, she's here. And there are some classics here as well. So Sarah Jane Smith and Romana, both versions. So you've got a mixture of classic companions here from all of the Doctors up until really the 5th Doctor. So that's everything in the let's have a look. Doctor Who role-playing game from FASA, published in 1985. I said surprisingly well, quite well supported. It's a lot of this information, of course, has been superseded. You probably wouldn't play a Doctor Who role-playing game using these rules now. What you probably would do is go and find the source material, the scenarios that were published for it, okay, and basically adapt them to the system of your choice, whether that is Virgin Books Time Lord or Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space, the most recent Doctor Who role-playing game from Cubicle 7, because a lot of those adventures are actually fairly decent. They're good adventures. The terrific one set aboard basically a Romans in space spaceship, which is slowly being overtaken by by the Cybermen. There's Country Mansion horrors, a la the 4th Doctor. Sort of basically to sort of like with the mummies and so on and that sort of thing. So they're all there if you want it, and they do take it. Most of the scenarios are kind of set on Earth, but a couple of them sort of like go off Earth as well, which is fitting because essentially throughout the Doctor Who series, most adventures take place on Earth. It's certainly sort of like through basically the 3rd and 4th Doctor. So yeah, Doctor Who role-playing game from FASA from 1985. I want to thank Paul Rickards for lending this to me so that I can do a proper unboxing of it. Thank you very much, I do appreciate that. If you've enjoyed this unboxing, then please do click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you posting those, and I do take the time to read them. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me with some parcels, okay, and a game, which I will talk about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, accompanied, of course, by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.